Great. So, yeah, I would like to welcome you all to this webinar on EU-Canada cooperation. We have a very packed program today for this webinar, and I would like to first pass the word on to John Edwards, who is the Secretary General of EURASHE, to give a short introduction about the network and about our Canadian partners. John, over to you. John, you're muted.
Yes, sorry. Good afternoon from Europe and good morning to our Canadian friends. So this webinar that we're having in the end of our almost in our holiday time in Europe is about cooperation with Canada and in applied higher education, I should say, because at EURASHE we understood a few years ago that in fact Canada and the polytechnics in Canada were very good partners for our members in EURASHE for many reasons. But it seems over the years we've become more knowledgeable about Canada, and I think Canadian institutions are becoming more interested in knowing about European institutions too. In fact, just recently now in Amsterdam, SAIT, Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, was over in our annual conference in Amsterdam. I think there were 2 years ago too, along with Sarah from Polytechnics Canada last year. Anne Marie from Humber was also with us. So we've had a good flow over this side of the Atlantic. We've also been to Canada as well. In fact, several of our members individually, bilaterally, have been over. The Estonians, for example, the Estonian University of Applied Sciences Association, they visited Canada very recently. Another one of our members is going on a training to Humber in July. So we can see that there is a lot going on. And I think, Europeans and Canada are similar in many other ways. Congratulations, by the way, for the result in the World Cup. I think you'd be even more interested in football. That's usually the Europeans are, but now we have Canada on board too with an exciting team. So we're looking out for how you get on. But all this sort of similarities is if we thought what we would do is we would have a webinar to try and bring it together a bit, see what's going on, both in terms of bilateral, specifically between Canada and Ireland. But also to look at what the European Union has to offer as well, and some of the global cooperation opportunities. So that would be my introduction. I'd like to pass over to Sarah, who is, let's say, my counterpart in Canada, to say a few words about Polytechnics Canada.
Thanks so much, John. So my name is Sarah Watts-Reinert, and I'm the CEO of Polytechnics Canada. That's a network of 13 leading polytechnics across the country, really focused on advanced technical and technological education in areas of acute workforce demand. And so some of those things today look like artificial intelligence, skilled trades, national defense, clean energy, with a focus always on strategic workforce development in areas of broad national and international interest and concern, as well as responding to the regional interests where they're located. And they do this by delivering diplomas, certificates, bachelor's and master's degrees in close collaboration with employers. And that industry engagement is key. So being responsive to emerging requirements on the talent side, and also bringing applied research expertise that helps businesses achieve productivity improvements, everything from prototyping to de-risking technology adoption to validation and testing. And so I'm really happy to be able to participate today as EURASHE members learn more about Canadian polytechnics and their openness to partnership with like institutions in Europe and more broadly. So thank you so much for inviting me, and I look forward to participating today.
Great. Thank you, Sarah and John, for the introduction. I would like to now pass it over to Shayna Duffy, who is the head of internationalization at the Higher Education Authority in Ireland, and David Ross, president of the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, to give us a bit of an introduction to the what, the why, and the how of EU-Canada cooperation in higher education. Shayna and David, please, the floor is yours.
I think I've been picked to start. So good morning, everyone. Welcome from Calgary, Alberta, and greetings to what is the start of Stampede Week as well. For those who are familiar with our culture, the Calgary Stampede starts in about 4 days, and I know folks that wanted to come and have been here before. So again, welcome to Calgary. Allow me just a couple of minutes, and I'm going to build on what Sarah has talked about and what John has talked about. Say, for example, we've been working in international education in some form in bilateral relationships now since the 1980s. So you get to see some that work, some that aren't successful. So we had some idea on what we were looking for in terms of partnerships, in terms of bilateral relationships. About 3 years ago now, John, Rory Nevin from Ireland showed up at a Polytechnics conference that was being hosted here in Calgary when we first got to know them and understand a bit more what was going on in Europe, and had some very, very good discussions in terms of what similarities there were between institutions, what the mandates were, what the priorities were in terms of the regions they serve. And of course, I think the region is a key word as well, and that many of the members of both Polytechnics Canada and Urashi are in situations where they serve specific regions of their country. So that was very attractive to us. So in view of that, we started down the road of developing some understanding and MOU perhaps and what we could work together on. Again, with our background, we want members or partnerships that would really could build some momentum around them. Lots of MOUs get signed and they sit on the top shelf, and we weren't interested in that. But we were very quick defined, and what the example we're going to talk about today is our relationship with the Technical University of the Shannon. And there's three main things I believe that came out of those early discussions, and Sonia will get into more detail. But there certainly was commonality in terms of what our challenges were, what our opportunities were, what some ideas could be jointly generated to help take those on. I thought there were very progressive early discussions, and they have progressed since. Similar resource bases, but also similar resource challenges, and how do we solve that next generation of organization, serve our region, serve our students, serve our industry partners. Industry partners were centerpieces in both organizations, and of course, the whole question of talent. We look for what I believe are important relationships where talent can be shared, talent can be developed, and overall, from all of that, both institutions advance. So I thank you to the folks in Ireland and of course, Shayna, who will be speaking next, and the team there. But this has been a very progressive relationship, and one that I know will continue to blossom in the months, years ahead.
Thanks, David, and good afternoon from Dublin, but good morning to you all in Canada. Just to build on David's words, we developed this partnership with Ireland identified Canada as a really potentially good partner with whom we could develop strategically and mutually beneficial partnerships, and that is the word. We both have something to give, and we both have something to gain. So in doing that, our first foray into this was to develop a framework for action with Polytechnics Canada. And as David said, an MOU can sit on a shelf. So we deliberately called it a framework for action because we wanted it to gain momentum. And we've signed this memorandum, this framework for action around 4 areas: teaching and learning practice, support of joint RDI initiatives, entrepreneurship, education, and knowledge sharing are the four areas. The first one that we have actioned is around joint teaching and learning and innovative practices. And with seed funding from both sides of the Atlantic, we were able to get 8 international partnerships underway, which represent a first phase of collaborative activity to develop common tools, experiment with new ways to deliver teaching and learning, and encourage faculty and staff to engage with international counterparts around common challenges. So in April, our good friend Sarah organised a webinar where we brought together all of the partners to update on progress and to share common learnings. We had an update for a subcommittee of the board, and I mean the report back, we said, yeah, we're definitely getting value for money. These aren't just partnerships on paper. You could actually see when these presentations were being delivered that actually people really worked well together and enjoyed working together, and you could really see the added benefit of this partnership. So I'd just like to thank our Canadian counterparts. David is a really driving force for us all, and Sarah. And I actually, it's amazing because I recognize all the other panelists today I've met in some shape or form over the last year. So we've really, really enjoyed working with you all, and absolutely go for these partnerships. They work really, really well. So I'm looking forward to hearing how we'll progress further today. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Sheena and David. I would like to now jump a little bit deeper into how this cooperation, this partnership works in practice by presenting 2 case studies. The first one would be on the partnership between TUS, or the Technological University of the Shannon in Ireland, and SAIT, or Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, which is based in Calgary. For this, I would like to invite Sonia Chamberlain from SAIT and Frances O'Connell from TUS to share their screen and their slides with us. And I leave the floor to you.
Thank you, Matilda. Checking that looks good. Okay for everyone there?
Yep, looks perfect.
Perfect. Great. Well, welcome. Good day, everyone. And I know Frances and I are delighted to be able to share a little bit about the collaboration that we've had between our 2 organizations. And I'm Sonia Chamberlain. I'm the Dean for the School of Health and Public Safety at the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology. And I'll just shorten that to SAIT from now on because that's a big mouthful. And I'll just pass it over to my colleague Frances to introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. And my name is Frances O'Connell from the Technological University of the Shannon, otherwise known as TUS for short.
Perfect. And so we have a few slides here to share a little bit about how this all got together and how we structure our organizations to work on the different projects. But we feel that this relationship has really actually matured into quite a multi-dimensional collaboration, and we have had some, I think, strong momentum in a few of the areas that we've been working on, particularly around teaching and learning, some of the joint applied research projects that we've been working on, and academic pathways and student mobility. So we'll share that as we go along. And I think just to give you a sense of what we're going to be talking about today, we have a little bit of context from both of our organizations that we'll share, talk about those areas of collaboration, how we've structured ourselves and the governance model that we've been using to progress these collaborations, and then just a few highlights of some of the outcomes that we've achieved to date, lessons learned, hopefully, and some future plans. So SAIT has its main campus in Calgary, Canada, and we also have 3 satellite campuses. And just to give you a sense of the size of it, we have nearly 22,000 students that are enrolled in degree, diploma, and certificate programs, and another 6,800 apprentices that are taking 27 different types of programs. So we also do, continuing education for individual learners and for corporations. And so that's just a really quick snapshot into SAIT, and I'll pass it over to Frances.
Well, thank you very much, Sonia. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit on what Sarah and John introduced in the first place. I'm delighted to see David as well in terms of that partnership. So just to situate a technological university, technological universities very much are created to enable that applied learning, that applied approach to learner development, that agility in working with industry to address our students' needs, and that practical and applied research as well through research centres, and to have work-ready graduates. So there's very much a balance between the theoretical and the applied with our learners and our research as well. And that is absolutely critical, because you can see it even here in the map of Ireland. We serve urban and rural, and so we have to be able to have that agility to address our students' needs where they are, where they're located, and what will serve those regions. So we've 7 campuses across our Midwest and Midlands regions, circa 16,000 students with over 100 nationalities. And it is very much all of our learning approach from level 6 on the National Framework of Qualifications up to PhD level is very much with that applied and active learning. And how we know that this is working is that TUS for 3 years in a row now has had the highest level of graduate employment in the university sector across Ireland. And that is very much so. Our graduates are getting employment or going into further research. And we work literally with industry in terms of designing programs, work placements, and assuring that they are fit for purpose in terms of what we want our graduates to know, what we want them to be able to do, and what we want them to be able to contribute to society. And so in that regard, we have about 3,500 to 4,000 students from level 6 up to PhD level. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we can see that picture that Sheena and others were talking about even back in 2024, and I was there on that visit, and just to acknowledge Janet Welch as well, in the team and the whole team from SAIT. We could see straight away, and to thank the HEA, Sheena and Rory at that time, we could see immediately where I always frame it as people and projects. So there was very much the strength in the people. We talked the same talk in terms of our focus vis-a-vis the students, what we wanted to achieve for our students through projects and for staff as well. And equally in terms of the dynamic between the partners as well around that collaboration, building trust, sharing, as David highlighted, where were our challenges. So we set up joint working group to develop plans for collaboration, staff exchanges, and looking at the curriculum and looking at research projects as well, in order to try and even all the way forward, we were being quite dynamic in terms of what we could see were the opportunities. Thanks, Sonia. Next.
So we did settle on 6 areas of collaboration that we wanted to explore with each other, again, leveraging each institution's strengths and looking at some common challenges that we could tackle together. So, I won't read through all of these, but it does give you a flavor of, certainly teaching practices, teaching and learning. We wanted to explore those. Also the possibilities for potentially some joint program development and delivery. Applied research and innovation was high on our list as well, in how we could approach some of these, industry and other challenges. We also wanted to look at student and staff exchanges and the mobility between Ireland and Canada. Again, shared values around the importance of globalization and exposing students to different ways of working. The skill identification and flexibility delivery was really around those short courses for continuing education. And we do have a bit different system between SAIT and TUS on how that's done. And so that was good to look into as well. And then last but not least, we also, as Dr. Ross mentioned as well, wanted to look at those good practices that each institution was doing and try and learn from each other, particularly around curriculum reviews and quality assurance and how each of us engage in district. So those were the areas. And then just this is an example of how we've set up a SAIT structure to work with TUS and progress these areas. And so we've struck a steering committee that consists of our VP Academic, our VP of Corporate Development and Innovation. It also has our Public Relations and, our Director of Government and Public Affairs, and then also our Associate VP of Strategy and Institutional Development. And I lead that group. We are accountable to Executive Management Council, which are the executive VPs and Dr. Ross. And then we also have 6 separate working committees that align with those areas of collaboration that are led by a senior leader. And so they're responsible for really the tactical plans for each of the working areas, while the steering committee oversees that work, helps provide guidance, does some communication and so on. And then it's the steering committee members that really engage with our counterparts at TUS to support the governance piece, talk about funding opportunities and resources. So I think I'll leave it there and pass it on to Frances to share the structure at TUS.
Yeah, so in terms of those areas that Sheena identified originally, and then with our discussions with colleagues in SAIT, we framed a steering committee in TUS to be the vice president myself for student education and experience that looks at that teaching and learning project initially, research, development and innovation, which is my colleague, Dr. Liam Brown, and the vice president for internationalization and alumni, which is Donica McNamara. So again, we frame it to map directly into the focus that SAIT have as well. So very similar approach. So if we move on, Sonia. So we may take the teaching and learning particular, and this project proposal, when the call came out from the HEA and Polytechnics Canada in terms of teaching and learning area, we worked together, Sonia and the team, myself, in terms of what that project would constitute. So we made a submission to the HEA and Polytechnics Canada in May 2025, focusing in on some areas that had very much arisen as strategic areas for consideration in higher education, centred on education for sustainable development, looking at digital transformation in higher and tertiary education, best practices in upholding and cultivating academic integrity. And obviously that theme has become very nuanced in the context of AI, and interdisciplinary collaboration under any of those 3 themes as well. So if we progress, Sonia. So our actual project, our overarching program of work, is building capacity building through collaboration. And that's very much looking at having teaching enhancements projects and student fellowships. So we very much focused on wanting to have, and we have about 40,000 euro and the equivalent in Canadian dollars devoted to this particularly capacity building. So that teaching enhancement projects working with faculties right across TUS and SAIT in terms of what those are, and also in terms of student fellowships, recognising around the opportunity for student mobility as well through student fellowships. So we might move on, Sonia, just in terms of what those areas are. Again, to keep governance and assuring the monies that we have devoted, we have a governance structure, cross-governance structure. So TUS and SAIT have a joint steering group and a joint working group. So that meets regularly, monthly, in relation to the particular project overarching steering group. The project itself in TUS is led out by the Centre for Pedagogical Innovation and Development, CPID, and the teaching and learning comes in SAIT. So we have budget managers and data protection in terms of assuring governance in all areas in terms of monies and data used for staff or students, and also project coordination and administration. And then all the comms is done through Teams and Zoom, where we keep all the collateral in relation to the project for audit purposes thereafter, should it be needed. If we move on, Sonia. So I'm conscious if we hit, this is quite a busy slide, but it does give you a sense of what we designed out to be the 6 teaching enhancements projects that were designed under the 3 themes, and 2 fellowship projects, 2 fellowship student projects across the institutions as well. So under the digital transformation, we're looking at investigating the impact of immersive technologies on the development of core skills and competencies. And again, that very much is looking at both in terms of pedagogical practices, in terms of how we go beyond the chalk and talk, in terms of how we support learning amongst our students, and also in terms of recognising that some profession skills area, the use of immersive technologies is very much coming to the fore in terms of professions such as nursing and other areas. The second project in this area is exploring the integration of generative AI tools in teaching practice to develop AI literacy. And the second one in this area is on a collection of case studies on Gen AI usage as part of curriculum development. And in the columns on the project mentors and the contacts, so we have mentors overseeing each of those projects, and then you have members on the project teams, which is the final column. And right across, you have co-membership by TUS and SAIT, both as mentors and project teams. Education for sustainable development. So looking at projects in relation to living labs and culinary arts. So physical creation of those living labs to support the learning of our students as well. And one of the particular avenues we have developed in TUS is that we annually produce under open education resources, we publish it widely, is compendium. So we pick a particular theme for our compendium. So we started in terms of authentic assessments, applied teaching and learning, looking at education for sustainable development. So this has got really strong traction with the SAIT teams in how we would develop a compendium for teaching, learning, assessment practices in SAIT using the same model as well that we've used. So a lot of case studies, and we can see potential there for future case studies that are collaborative pieces of work. Academic integrity, the particular teaching enhancement projects there are involving students as co-creators with the assessment process, because as we know, the challenge in terms of addressing the difficult aspects of generative AI usage and how it could potentially bypass cognitive student engagement, and equally in terms of its threats to academic integrity through assessment practices. So actually using the students in terms of their voice and co-creators in terms of a project like this. And the second one in this area was modelling academic integrity to improve practice in the enactment of the curriculum and the learning outcomes. And then finally, in terms of the fellowship projects, so fellowship projects are very much led by the students with the support of project mentors. And we have students from TUS and SAIT, and they're working on how well are we doing? A student-led review of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals across their curriculum and modules that they're engaging in. And the other is cross thematic area, academic integrity and digital transformation. And that particular fellowship is looking to evaluate assessments within an existing taught module to determine if and how Gen AI tools may or not be integrated ethically. So you can see these are very contemporary topics that are being used, and those projects have commenced. And again, there is reporting required by the projects through the mentors, etc. So very much to date, what has been achieved in terms of research papers, looking at and supporting the development of research papers with guideline documents. And very much we can see, Sonia and myself, about, the employing action research. So action research methodology in teaching, learning and enhancement projects specifically enables educators to focus on, explore, reflect and implement actions in their own settings to improve their everyday practices. So we could see that very much kind of being shared and having those meetings as well to allow that sharing. Having those student-led outputs to allow sharing as well across what has been determined by students, and those student level evaluations. So the models of even doing the module evaluation in terms of assessments, that in itself is a very valuable template and framework to use. Back over to yourself, Sonia.
Great, thank you. So yeah, lots of work on the teaching and learning area of collaboration. The other one that we wanted to highlight briefly here is the applied research area and our progress in that. And so a number of different projects have been initiated between TUS and SAIT. One in particular is this AutoPAM project, and so that's really received funding from Enterprise Ireland, and it's about multi-source data for integration for automation across ports, agriculture, mining. And they're starting with the port side of things and really using the expertise that SAIT has around drone technology, combined with TUS's expertise in the Internet of Things to create data for better decision making. So that project is on its way. TUS also invited SAIT to participate in the Eureka project. And so that's about using adaptive AI for cybersecurity threat intelligence, monitoring, and countermeasures. And so that we're just waiting for funding approval on that one. And there's actually 15 different countries involved in that project. Our Green Building Technology Center of Excellence in SAIT is also working with TUS in applying for a Horizon Europe funding related to sustainability projects. So that's ongoing. I think within the next couple of weeks, they will have settled on which project they're going to be working on. And then I think a couple other pieces that are happening here is around the 3D printed concrete. So that's again combining some of the areas of expertise between SAIT on the applied materials, and then also TUS's expertise in in architecture. So we're working on that, and then also exploring some pieces around hydrogen research, particularly about purity. So yeah, so some good progress there as well. And I know we put a presentation together to co-present at the most recent Urashi conference back in earlier June. So good work there. And then the last area I think that I'll highlight is really around student mobility. So we have had quite a few people from SAIT and TUS going to each other's institutions. So that's been great. We started this about a year ago where an academic chair from SAIT visited TUS. And then reciprocally, we had the program lead and assistant lecturer from TUS visit SAIT in June. And then more recently, 7 of our SAIT fitness and wellness management students and a faculty member completed a study abroad experience in TUS back in February. And we also had one of our staff members from Student Mobility at SAIT visit near about the same time to look at further study abroad that we could do between the two organizations, to look at potentially summer camp options and then also COIL opportunities. So we're investigating that. We're also looking at how do we expand this to our apprenticeship programs. And then I guess the most recent visit was we had 3 faculty and staff from TUS come to SAIT to present on some of these teaching and learning projects that Francis outlined at our SAIT's Reimagining Learning Showcase. So again, some really good stuff there. We did apply for Erasmus Plus funding for additional study abroad tours, so we'll see if that comes through. Oops.
Sonia and Francis, sorry to interrupt you, but I would like to ask you if you can maybe wrap up just to give time to the others as well. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I'll just quickly mention that we've had some academic pathways come about that was formalized in March. And so that we have a SAIT staff member that is taking TUS's Master of Arts in Academic Practice program, and had also piloted the prior learning for admissions. So that worked out well. And then also 2 agreements for SAIT's diploma graduates in early childhood education, getting into year 3 of TUS's bachelor, and same thing with the Bachelor of Science, our SAIT's diploma students in the fitness and wellness. So some good work there. I think the lessons learned are not surprising. The time difference is a challenge in trying to set up meetings in real time, synchronously. We also had different student populations when we were doing the 2 teaching and learning projects. So SAIT doesn't have graduate students. We only have undergraduate students, whereas TUS does have grad students. So there was a bit difference in capabilities there. And then just differences in ethics, approval processes, and so on that we're working through. So I think, I don't know if you want to speak really briefly, Francis, on the future plans, and then we can turn it over.
I'm just conscious of our time, as you say, Matilda, but a lot done, plenty more to do is probably how I would sum it up. And I think in terms of recognizing those issues and challenges in terms of operations, they're not insurmountable, they're operational. But the most important bit is actually the thrust of the collaboration that's been achieved to date and onwards and upwards. So I would just like to thank Dr. Ross as well on behalf of our TUS president for all of the support from SAIT. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sonia and Francis, for your presentation. I would like to now pass on to the next example of such a collaboration between Atlantic Technological University in Ireland and Humber Polytechnic in Toronto. And for this, I would like to invite Tamara Barr, Mackenzie Ketchell, and Diane Simpson, all 3 of them from Humber. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matilda. It's wonderful to be here. My name is Diane Simpson, and I'm the Dean of International here at Humber Polytechnic in Toronto, Canada. So today, I'll introduce broadly Humber and the partnership between Atlantic Technological University and Humber Polytechnic. But then I'm going to turn the floor over to my colleagues, Tamara and Mackenzie, to really talk about in depth about EQUIP, which I think we can look at as a case study in terms of the what we were able to achieve through our strategic partnership between Humber and ATU, leveraging the funding through the Higher Education Authority and Polytechnics Canada to develop something that I think is quite special. And I hope and I think that you'll agree with me when we get to that opportunity to learn more about EQUIP. So first of all, I'm just going to move forward if I can. There we go. So just a quick introduction to Humber. Humber Polytechnic is one of Canada's largest polytechnics located in Toronto, Canada. We have more than 76,000 learners across 6 academic faculties with credentials ranging from certificates, apprenticeships through to master's degrees. We similarly to our colleagues in Ireland have the highest employer satisfaction rate and graduate employment rate of all the colleges in the GTA. And I think this really speaks to our strong alignment with the industry. And in terms of what I think is the most interesting about the polytechnics in Canada and the technological universities in Ireland is our similarity in terms of our DNA, is that alignment with industry, is that focus on applied, ensuring that we have a breadth and depth of credentials that really meet local and national labor market needs. And Humber, along with many other colleges and polytechnics in Ontario, has long been partnered with the technological universities in Ireland through a provincial agreement between the Ontario government and Enterprise Canada and the AGA in Ireland as well. So we've had a lot of different partnerships over the years. Not a lot. We've had partnerships with the system in Ireland over the years that have led to a lot of pathway programs. Our students, many of our students going to Ireland to finish degrees, to go on to masters, and many students from Ireland coming to Humber for semester abroad or to participate in our global summer school. And our partnership with ATU specifically really took on a more strategic positioning a few years ago when we really saw a lot of alignment in terms of programming, in terms of our focus on innovation and teaching and learning, and also in terms of our support for students in terms of career development and internationalization more broadly. So we've been working very closely and strategically with ATU for a few years now, and that has led to a number of different initiatives and what I would say impact at all levels of the institution, which is really what makes it a strategic partnership. So we've had engagement from our student success and engagement departments across both institutions. We've had engagement across multiple faculties and faculty in different disciplines. And then the initiative that we're going to talk about today is really through the collaboration through our teaching and learning faculty at both Humber and ATU. And this collaboration started a few years ago where we realized that there was a strong focus and interest on universal design for learning at both institutions. So there's been opportunity for research in terms of teaching and learning and impact on the classroom. And then when the opportunity last year came up to access funding to really through Polytechnics Canada and the Higher Education Authority in Ireland, we were really able to do what I think is something very special in terms of the collaboration and really taking it to the next level. So I'm joined today by 2 of the faculty who have been deeply engaged in this work from Humber. Dr. Tamara Jane Barr, who's a faculty member and educational developer at Humber. Her work sits in the intersection of technology and education with a focused expertise in the socio-technical dimension of emerging technologies and their broader impact on society. Dr. Barr currently facilitates faculty development initiatives in AI literacy, equipping educators with the knowledge and frameworks needed to navigate and integrate artificial intelligence thoughtfully and responsibly in their practice. Mackenzie Ketchell is a professor in the Faculty of Social and Community Services and the Center for Teaching and Learning at Humber. In his role with Innovative Learning, his work has focused on faculty development related to inclusive education and universal design for learning. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues who will talk about the EQUIP project, which stands for Equitable Quality Universal Design Instruction for Progress. And I think this is a really, as I mentioned, a very special project. And they're going to talk specifically about the collaboration and how the teams across both institutions work together. So over to my colleagues, Tamara and Mackenzie. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Diane. So I'll just talk a little bit about the project itself, and then Mackenzie is going to talk about the scholarship of teaching and learning aspect of this project. So EQUIP project features foundational open educational resources series, and it's a series structured as a 4-stage stackable micro-credential pathway designed to take faculty from core foundations, foundational awareness, to advanced innovation. So we can go to the next one. Do I just, am I driving it now? I don't think so.
No, I can drive it. I just can't hear you. I can't hear you very well, Tamira. I don't know if
I'm sorry.
others.
Is this better?
Yeah, we
Is
can
this
hear you
better?
fine, Tamara.
Okay.
It's just me. Okay, it's
Oh,
me
okay.
for
Sorry,
some
Diane.
reason. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we can go to the next slide.
Sorry.
That's okay. So, as I mentioned, it is a set of stackable micro-credentials, and essentially faculty progress sequentially, earning milestone digital badges as they move from an explorer level, which builds core conceptual understanding of both universal design for learning and also how to make use of artificial intelligence to support universal design for learning. And so these are the 4 badges here. We have Explorer, to Integrator, Transformer, and then ultimately Innovator. And we can go to the next slide.
1 second. Sorry. Sorry. There we go. There we go.
So the collaborative part was a wonderful, I know Mackenzie will agree, as well as our colleagues over in Ireland, to stay seamlessly connected between ATU and Humber. We established a central MS Teams and SharePoint hub, and our process is grounded in the regular structured touch points. We hold weekly full team meetings, bi-weekly subject matter expert consultations, and bi-weekly instructional design alignment sessions. And this layout ensures that our cross-institutional peer-to-peer approach remains deeply collaborative, agile, and aligned at every phase of development. And we can go on to the next one. So want to practice what we preach. So the professional development modules are built explicitly on universal design for learning principles. The format is entirely self-paced and asynchronous, ensuring accessibility for busy faculty members balancing heavy workloads. And rather than just passive text, the learning experience is driven by rich multimedia, embedded video. We have case studies to explore the intersection of Gen AI and UDL, as well as reflective activities. With low stakes assessments, most importantly, everything we produce is fully open access, serving as a scalable model for inclusive course design. And we'll go to the next one. Thank you. And then these are just basically our development process. We followed 6 key milestones to ensure high quality pedagogical integrity. We begin with collaborative writing, co-authoring from shared templates to align content from day 1. This moves into editing and refinement via close peer review, followed by dedicated instructional design mapping to scaffold learning activity. And step 4 focuses entirely on rigorous quality and accessibility checks. And then we transition to a formal faculty pilot, which is just wrapping up right now, so that we can get real world classroom feedback, which allows us to implement the revisions that are required for our final launch. The launch will be taking place in September at Humber, and our colleagues from Ireland will be joining us for this launch. And now I'm going to hand it over to Mackenzie, who's going to talk about the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning aspect of this project.
Thank you, Tamara. As Tamara mentioned, we are kind of just wrapping up our pilot right now. So obviously we wanted to, we spent a lot of time developing these course series, and we wanted to ensure that we were able to kind of measure the effectiveness. So our pilot was made up of 20 engineering faculty, so 10 engineering faculty from Humber and 10 engineering faculty from ATU. We wanted to pick a group that were from a discipline that we thought would be consistent across the two institutions. And so using that pilot group, we've done some pre and post course surveys. Specifically, we are looking at measuring the participants' confidence and competence in integrating the Universal Design for Learning framework, as well as generative AI as a tool for developing inclusive curriculum. We have also just wrapping up doing some focus groups with the participants as well. And again, looking at not just kind of their confidence and competence from going through the program, but looking at an open online asynchronous course as a format for faculty development around these kind of emerging technologies. So that's what we're doing in terms of our Scholarship of Teaching and Learning research. And then if we can just move to the next slide, please, Diane. Thank you very much. Once we've kind of captured and analyzed that data, we're looking at how to kind of share that with others. So we will be kind of hopefully, being able to publish some of this, our findings in related journals, but also looking at kind of sharing with others across various different webinars, institutional sessions, within professional development sessions, both within our institutions at Humber and ATU. In September, we're looking at doing some joint workshops together and bringing participants from both of the institutions together to both facilitate but participate in some of these sessions as well. And then, as Tamara mentioned, our big launch is going to be in September, and we're going to try to share and disseminate that launch with as many people as possible. So please do stay tuned. We'll definitely be sharing with everyone on this call as well. And again, this course has not just been designed for Humber and ATU faculty, but for any higher education faculty around the world. And so we want to try to spread this as far as we can. So Diane, if you can just move, there we go. Excellent, thank you. So just a quick overview. We started this work in September of 2025, and Tamara shared with you our process. It was a very interesting experience developing and working through this process as we went, but I think we've refined it very well now, and we're at the point now, we just wrapped up our pilot, so we're looking at all the revisions and feedback we got from the participants, and we're implementing that feedback for our formal launch that is happening in September. So Diane, if you can just, thank you very much. So just to wrap up, and I will share, much of what we heard from Tuss and Sate is, I think, a lot of what we experienced as well in terms of some of the lessons we learned and some of the ideas moving forward. One thing that we noticed, and Diane mentioned this as well, that I think we picked the right partner in ATU for this type of work, and just that we've recognized this, we do have this shared commitment specifically to accessible education, to kind of emerging technology, and we found that it was seamless in terms of those goals and that shared commitment. We learned, and Tamara can speak to this as well, both I think as institutions, but also on an individual professional level. It was great to be able to work with people from very different contexts and recognize all those similarities that we had in the changing higher education sector now. So that was a great opportunity for us. We've developed some amazing professional relationships, and we often in our calls say, what's the next project that we want to work on together? So I think we hope to maintain those connections that we've already made, and that speaks to the relationships and the trust that I think that we've developed both as an institution, as institutions working together, but also as individual professionals working on these interdisciplinary teams as well. And so I guess just to wrap up that, our plan for this initiative is to roll out the courses to the wider higher education audience in September, and then to continue to gather some data to kind of look at the uptake, to look at implementation, how these courses can help support faculty in creating learning experiences that are accessible, that are engaging, that integrate these new emerging technologies for learners. So we can move along, and I think that is it. So Diane or Tamara, if you want to add anything as we wrap up.
No, thank you. I know we're getting close to time, but I think this is a great example of two key departments of the institutions coming together and creating something really tangible and concrete that will have a much broader and wider impact at a sectoral level, which I think makes it very, very special. As both Mackenzie and Tamara spoke, we are doing the official launch in September. We'll have the counterparts, Mackenzie and Tamara's counterparts from ATU here, as well as Dr. Orla Flynn, the president from ATU, who will be here to officially launch, along with Dr. Anne-Marie Vaughn, our president, officially launch the project, the program, and then also talk about some other initiatives, major initiatives that are happening between both ATU and Humber. So I think we have about two minutes. If there's any questions in the chat, or I'll turn it over to Matilda to facilitate questions. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share.
Thank you very much, Diane and colleagues. Indeed, I would like to open the floor for questions. As participants, you do not have the permit. Well, you have to ask for permission to unmute yourself. If you want to raise, if you have a question, you can raise your hand, and I can give you that permission. Otherwise, you can also write your question in the chat. That works as well. Diane, if you wouldn't mind, stop sharing your screen, please, so we can see everyone. Great, thank you. No questions at all for our colleagues. Okay, maybe John, in the meantime, you would like to say some to conclude, and then we see if some people are brave enough to ask a question or two. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry. I know still haven't got that after all these years, but I know it's not easy to do these things online and to maybe come up with questions. I think the example from Ireland with SAIT and Humber, and I forgot to mention at the beginning, of course, SAIT and Humber are affiliate members of UASHE. I think this cooperation can be, a good starting point to widen out the cooperation among the other UASHE members. And that's what we hope anyway. There was some specific funding for the projects between the Canadian Polytechnics and Irish technological universities. And obviously that's important to get things going. But there are other funding opportunities. The Erasmus Plus program was mentioned by SAIT. And then also what Mackenzie was saying about the results being able to be used by the wider higher education community. I think, we need to try and mobilize that now. One way of doing it would be to visit Canada. And this is on the table. We have asked members if they're interested in getting a group together to come, and I think it makes it much more tangible, easier to ask questions than on a webinar, and that's what we plan to do. We're hoping to come over there, as David mentioned. I've been already, but we're hoping that a group of UASHE members can be over in Toronto and also in Alberta next March. So let's hope that we can get a good group together for that, and we can follow up on some of these ideas and launch new projects together. So thank you for joining us today.
We have a question says, where can I find the range of partnerships and projects? Is there an overview? I imagine on the respective websites, and correct me please, our colleagues, if I'm wrong, but I imagine on the websites of each institution, there must be an overview of partnerships and projects in place. Or Sarah, maybe on the website of Polytechnics Canada?
Yeah, I mean, we do have a summary of the 8 projects that are ongoing, recognizing that that 3 of them are coming out of SAIT and Humber and their respective partnerships. But we do have a summary of all 8, and I think it just showcases the number of things that that members on both sides of the Atlantic could find that were of mutual interest. So I'd be more than happy to share that.
Well, with that, let's conclude. Thank you so much to our colleagues to be here today. One more question in the chat. What would be the current priority areas in healthcare education related cooperation? Sarah, maybe? I don't know if you would like to answer that.
Yeah, I know. I think there's a lot of work being done in the life sciences, and what we've done is suggest that each institution reach out to the rest of the network and see whether or not they share areas of mutual interest. And then come to us with those ideas. So it's not, this is not something that Polytechnics Canada or HEA decided that this is what the priorities were. It was something that we really left to the individual institutions to figure it out. So if there's some specific interests around health, then I think that it's a matter of trying to share those insights and then see. I think that with the associate membership of SAIT and Humber, that's certainly a good place to start.
I might just note as well, Sarah, if I can just that one of the projects that we're working on in terms of digital technologies and supporting learning is in the area of health as well, and lab work, and supporting labs. So obviously that's very relevant in terms of the health sciences. And I think coming back to the question that was around sharing the information across the projects, I think this will be very helpful hereafter, not alone the sharing between a TU and one of our colleagues, but equally the cross-sharing across all the projects. And so much of the deliverables will be, where possible, as open education resources as well to share. So you're getting a multiplier effect in terms of the sharing, both between the institutions and across the institutions in terms of the pieces of the projects thereafter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francis and Sarah. Okay, then with that, thank you very much to all of the participants and the speakers, and we hope to continue this collaboration and many other collaborations as well. Thank you all. Have a nice day in Canada. Have a nice end of your afternoon, beginning of your evening in Europe. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.